the air now, and we have, as we said, a very special guest we're going to be talking to, who we're going to introduce. Would you please, in fact, actually, we'll let you introduce yourself today on the show. I appreciate you being able to make the time, and is that really going to keep happening? All right, there we go. I should have just turned off the switcher for the music. But anyway, thank you again. And yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to the listening audience out there?
Yeah, happy to be here. I was always told I have a face for radio, so I'm glad to finally test it out.
Here, let me move this a little closer.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
But hello, my name's Jeremy Boutin. I'm a fourth-year PhD student in the Molecular Plant Sciences PhD program here at WSU. Go Cougs! So that's me.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate you being able to make the time. We'd spoken a few times over email before, and I appreciate you being able to come on the show for, I think, the last episode of the semester, like I said before. But yeah, thank you. And as I want to make sure I have this right. I have the flyer pulled up just so I can read it completely correctly. But we were here to talk a little bit about the cannabis research seminar series that WSU's done. So yeah, I appreciate you being able to come in to talk a little bit about it. We thought it'd be kind of a fun topic. So yeah, would you mind kind of introducing it a little bit to those listening?
Yeah, I would love to. So I came to WSU specifically for cannabis research. Love plant biochemistry, love cannabis. And when I was applying for grad schools, I kind of tried to find a place that I could do just that, study cannabis in a biochemistry context. So that's what brought me to WSU. And, when I got here, I heard about the WSU CC Pro, the Center for Cannabis Policy Research and Outreach. A little bit of a mouthful, but, I was really excited about it. It's a group of researchers throughout the WSU universe that do cannabis research and policy research and outreach. So I just partnered with David Gang, who's the director. He's also in the Institute of Biological Chemistry, where my home program is. And I just said, hey, I love cannabis research and nobody knows about the WSU CC Pro. Every time I talk to somebody on campus, I'm like, oh, I do cannabis research. And they're like, what? You can do that at WSU here? And I was like, yeah, there's a whole department that does it. So
I didn't know.
Yeah, I partnered with David Gang, and I just said, hey, I'd love to put together a seminar series where we could highlight the great things going on in the world of cannabis research, and just hear from everybody within the cannabis research community, from faculty members, postdocs, students. I myself gave a talk this semester as well. So we're going to continue in the spring semester as well. So should be exciting. I should have a beautiful new flyer for you to promote.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, this one's pretty good, so but I appreciate that you're going to, keep working on this. But this one, I really like this one. I've seen it posted around a few times, actually, so that was good. Because I didn't know at first if it was going to be a thing. When I heard about it, it was going to be a thing where there would be a lot of, kind of flyers and ways for people to find out about it. But I did see quite a few out there.
Oh, yeah. We try to advertise via email. Flyers seems like the biggest way to catch people's attention. It's the only way I get my exercise is walking around campus, putting up flyers.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I actually have another one for you today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Aside from the cannabis research seminar series, I also partnered with the MPS department to put on a new class called the Biochemistry of Cannabis.
Whoa, nice.
So it's going to be a 1-credit class available for graduate students, undergrads, and it's going to be kind of like a journal club format where we will read different articles about the biochemistry of cannabis, talk about different misnomers in the cannabis community, and just have an educated and open discussion about it.
That's great. I'm glad that you're able to. Let me just read off. You had actually said it pretty well, but let me just read off as well what on the flyer. MPS 587, I guess, is the number for the course. Advanced topics in plant biochemistry, the biochemistry of cannabis. And it's going to be from Tuesdays from 2:55 to 3:45 p.m. Did I get that all right?
Yes, absolutely. I always forget people can't actually see us, so thank
Right.
you for communicating this to them.
Yeah, I mean, when we keep playing videos, we sometimes kind of forget that people
Yeah.
can't actually see us. So, but I appreciate you being able to actually talk a little bit about that. We're talking about the research seminar series. First of all, you did mention that it would be back next semester as well, correct?
That's
All right,
correct.
well, so would you mind saying, from looking at the flyer, something interesting I learned is that each of the discussions had some sort of a different theme, I guess I'd say would be the correct way to put it. Would you mind saying what those were?
Yeah, so since it was the first time we offered this, we kind of cast a wide net, just seeing who would be free, willing, able to participate. So, like I said, it kind of is divided pretty evenly amongst faculty, postdocs, a few students who presented this semester, and topics range. My PI gave a talk, and he's a great kind of public speaker. So he studies a lot of the different metabolites that accumulate in cannabis to give it its fun, distinct aroma. You know, you go to a dispensary and you hear rainbow lemon kush or some type of crazy strain, and you're like, oh my god, what does that smell like? So his research in particular is trying to study a lot of the fun compounds in cannabis that's responsible for its aroma. My research in particular, I study monoterpene synthases, so a subset of chemicals in cannabis called terpenes have become pretty popular in the past couple decades, and a lot of people think they're the number one chemical responsible for giving cannabis its unique flavor aroma. But what my research does is looking at, on the biochemical level, how do these fun enzymes in cannabis synthesize these compounds? So everything from that to Nolan Schiebel, who just gave our last talk, he was talking about a specific chemical called DDE and how it bioaccumulates in the cannabis crop. Because it's a magical plant, and one of the things it's great at is just sucking up everything in the soil and concentrating it. So he was looking at a specific chemical that can be in soil across the U.S., across the world, DDE, and how it kind of bioaccumulates in cannabis and its different organs. So it's a wide range of topics. I know Camille Wagstaff, who's in my program. It's helpful that you have the flyer up because I'm very forgetful. But Camille Wagstaff, she does a lot of entomology work. So I know she was looking at a specific virus in cannabis itself and kind of seeing how it translocates between different cannabis crops. So huge, wide variety of topics, but it's in the grand scheme of, what research is going on at WSU and, contributing to a healthy environment where people can actually talk about it. It's not like, oh God, the devil's lettuce. What are you even talking about? Get that out of here.
All that culture.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get rid of the stigma and all of the misnomers and trying to have just an educated, well-informed discussion, which I truly love. So
we're really trying to foster that kind of space as well. I mean, not as well put together as you guys have been doing, but we got similar goals on that one. But thank you. but also I wanted to ask a little bit for some of the parts of the series that have already discussions that have already taken place. I was wondering, you kind of talked about them a little bit right then, but since I didn't ask directly about it, I was wondering, are there any interesting facts that students might not know already that coming into the discussions that they might learn coming out that you'd like to share?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think one thing I was truly impressed. So I'm from the East Coast, Little Rhodey, Rhode Island. So coming here was quite a hop, skip, and a
Cool.
jump.
I'm Virginia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Go East Coast. Love it. But one thing I truly loved, because Washington, I believe, was the first state to legalize cannabis use.
Really?
And I just hearing a lot of the stories from local growers and being able to go to some of the hemp fields in Washington. So David Gang does a lot of work with a lot of hemp growers in the state itself. So, coming from such a small state, for me, being able to come here and see the huge fields of just different hemp varieties, and it looks identical to cannabis just because it's hemp and it doesn't produce THC. It looks identical. So for me, that was truly remarkable. Not being from the area and seeing, the vast, acres of just hemp varieties being grown. That was truly magical for me. And Camille Wagstaff does a lot of work with local growers as well. So hearing her talk and talking about the resources available for growers in the area as well, that was kind of a little fun facts for me, and I enjoyed listening to it because you can read about the biochemistry of cannabis, more frequently, but being able to actually see it and, touch a crop is completely different.
Right. Now, to ask a little bit away from the series itself and just ask a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind. I was wondering, When getting into like cannabis research, I was wondering, would you mind sharing kind of how you became interested in that field and that area of study?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, I had family members that would sell it illegally, or I had family members that used it medicinally. So it was truly never this out there like devil's lettuce, like you're going to hell if you're going to smoke this kind of thing. It was more understanding in my household. My mom always said it's still the devil's lettuce, don't smoke it. But, it was more accepted in my family. And so growing up, I didn't really believe in that stigma. So I went to undergrad at Rhode Island College, got my degree in biology and chemistry. And, I didn't want to go to grad school just yet. I was burnt out. And so I wanted to work in an industry that I found interesting. And cannabis helped me with depression, anxiety in undergrad. I was just burnt out all the time, so it really helped me mellow out. So I was like, why can't I work in the cannabis industry and work in a science laboratory? So after undergrad, I eventually managed an extraction lab at a medical marijuana facility, so making all the fun extracts. And I really loved it. I loved the work. I loved working with the crop itself, being able to build and design these fun extracts. But, it really highlighted the need for a lot of education in the industry because, just speaking with a lot of patients every day, I would go crazy and say like, oh, well, this strain has this type of terpene or this type of cannabinoid ratio, and it's good for this type of disease or ailment, and they're like, yeah, whatever. I just want to know what strain it is, or is it indica, is it sativa? And I'm like, oh my God, it would just be maddening. And, hearing from these people working in the industry that have worked in the cannabis industry, kind of in the black market, like just growing in their garage kind of thing, hearing kind of a lot of the misnomers that just had no scientific backing, for me, I'm like, this industry has such potential and room to grow, no pun intended, but I want to get back into school, get my PhD, work with cannabis research and education, and, try and combat a lot of the stigmas.
Could you give us a few examples of some of those misnomers? I'm very curious.
Yeah, the indica versus sativa debate, a lot of people, there are strains that are indica that will have more of a sedative high, and a lot of people say indica couch is one thing that's very popular that you'll hear, but that's one misnomer that a lot of people in the industry are trying to get away from. It's more so the composition of terpenes, cannabinoids on every specific cultivar level that really makes a difference.
It's more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even my research, like I study terpenes like myrcene and limonene. And a lot of people say there's certain growers or people in the industry that'll say, oh, myrcene is the one chemical. That's the chemical related to couch lock, or that gives that sedative high. But there's really no scientific backing of that. It could be true. It could be one of those compounds that contributes to that effect, but we don't know. And same with limonene. It's found in a lot of lemon or very citrusy varieties, so a lot of people think, oh, it's in those varieties and contributes to a very sativa-like high where you're very energetic, very active kind of thing. But again, we truly don't know.
Okay.
Well, great. Well, I wanted to say, because you had talked a little bit about this, but again, I never really asked you directly, so in case there'd been anything you'd like to add about it. When talking about the research series, you were talking a lot about people who are given some of the discussions and people involved in it. Is there anyone else you'd like to mention who have really been a big help in helping to set up this series?
Yeah, I know, like I mentioned, David Gang was a huge help. I kind of just approached him and was like, hey, I have this crazy idea. I got stoned one night and I want to make this happen kind of thing. But he was, great in hearing me out and was very excited to make it happen. So I have to give a lot of credit for him. As well as my PI, Mark Lang. He's an amazing mentor, advisor, PI. He's really great at, again, listening to me, hearing my ideas, and truly I should be in the lab more getting research done, but and he's like, "Oh God, stop being active on campus. You need to get back in the lab." But when I approached him about this, he was very happy about the idea and kind of enabled me to make it come to fruition. And he is actually the chief science officer at Dewey Scientific in Pullman as well. So his former PhD student, Jordan Zager, started Dewey Scientific. So he is huge in the cannabis community, loves cannabis education. So, I have to give a lot of credit to them.
Right. Well, great. I appreciate you being able to kind of like shout out a few other people who are instrumental in making it all happen. And I was going to ask also, speaking of making things happen, is there any way for I may get the exact terminology wrong, but for cannabis research at WSU, for students who might be interested as well, is there any way they can get involved to kind of help out with the program?
Yeah, I would say definitely first check it out. Look at the dynamic group of researchers in the WSU CC Pro first. Definitely come to sign up to the class next semester that I mentioned, MPS 587. It's going to be a great discussion. Stop by the seminar series. It's going to be the first and third Tuesday of every month in VBRB 305. We also have it over Zoom as well. Over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be working with David Gang to update the website so we can have more of a webinar format that's more digestible since it's our first semester and we're kind of working out the kinks. We're relying a lot of me emailing people, setting up Zoom links, but hopefully we'll have a streamlined platform for next semester. So that'll be another way to not only hear about the fun research going on campus, but, networking with those individuals as well. Because I know Carrie Cutler specifically, who's going to be talking next semester, she has a couple clinical trials on campus as well that are cannabis related. So definitely check out those. I know she's always looking for participants, and they're always accepting participants. I know there's a few trials in the area that are sex related, like male versus female, but her research, I think there's no restrictions. It's, just come and participate in the clinical trial.
Yeah, I think that would be a great segment for the show if we went and participated in one of the clinical trials and talked about it a little bit. That would be a good segment for the show.
Experience.
Yeah, we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm sure she would love that, actually.
Well, great. Well, we'll keep that in mind. And also, just to make sure for the next semester, it's still the first and third Tuesdays of the month?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And it might be a bit too early to say, or maybe we can't talk about it right at the moment, but I was wondering if we are, would you mind saying any of the subjects of the upcoming discussions for this next semester?
So we are waiting to fill out the full docket. I'm still waiting to schedule a few more talks before releasing the full thing. But a member from my lab, specifically Austin Alt, he does research in a lot of the sulfur-containing compounds in cannabis. So this is a very hot topic now in the cannabis industry because people have extracted and quantified these chemicals in cannabis and are speculating that they're related to that skunky aroma in cannabis. For a while, people are like, why does it smell like skunk? That was the one thing that cannabis researchers would get. And a lot of people would say, oh, maybe it's this terpene, maybe it's this, but a lot of people think it's related to sulfur-containing compounds. So I know he's going to be in the seminar series next semester, and he won't mind the shout out. So I know that's one specific lecture I can name right now that I'm excited for, and I know he'll give a good talk too. So
now it's kind of like maybe a bit of a side, but I was wondering, is there any times where when students come to the lecture that they are clearly just completely stoned? Any of them?
I hope not. But I mean, if they enjoy it, and I mean, I can't be stoned in public. People think I love cannabis more than the next guy, and people are like, if I'm a little off, people are like, is he stoned? And I'm like, no, I'm not. You'll never catch me stoned in public unless it's at Walmart at 12 at night. But I need to get my ice cream.
It's happened to us also.
Yeah.
Well, I had a question because I heard about this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but WSU being a federal campus, isn't weed not legal federally, so you can't technically have it on campus? Is that true?
That's correct. So in regards to research, a lot of the research with the crop itself has to be hemp related.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
big thing for cannabis research, they'll call it a hot crop, where if it goes above 0.3% THC,
It's illegal.
then they immediately have to burn it,
Whoa.
destroy it. You
That's
can't even look
interesting.
at it, and
Wow.
it's crazy because it's, you know, it looks just like hemp cannabis. They look identical, but yeah, you get it tested, and the second it's above a certain threshold, you have to destroy
It's
it.
illegal.
And
That's crazy.
yeah, and it's, you
And we
know,
have
a
a bar on
huge
campus.
issue. Yeah, exactly.
That's
but
weird.
What a waste. That's the other thing
I
think about.
know,
What a
it's
waste.
so
Yeah,
sad.
I mean, you know, I don't even mean like students should have it on campus. I just mean, you know, that someone could have done something with it and is going to burn it, you know.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
prohibition, right? It's
But I'll
just-
tell you what, though, you know, jaywalking also people aren't supposed to do.
Yeah.
Or
You know.
spitting on sidewalks, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, and they're really doing a
Really?
great job enforcing all those.
Wow.
You know.
Yes, that's an old school on the books rule that I found funny. But
Huh.
That's crazy. But I appreciate being able to go over a little, and also we've been talking about student response. What is the general, if you can kind of give a taste of that, what is the general student response to these, to the series?
I think they enjoy it. It seems like just from the dialogue, the networking going on, it seems like a lot of people, from what I've heard and what I've talked to students, it seems like, you know, the big thing is getting the word out there, making sure people actually know that this is happening. And, you know, I feel like some people are still afraid to be as comfortable as they are with cannabis, but I don't care. I go crazy about it. And so seeing people that have that open discussion and could ask the questions and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable in the seminar to ask these questions. I feel like that's the big take home that it warms my heart. But from what I've seen, it seems like they enjoy the series.
Well, great. Well, great. I'm glad. And to say to students out there who may be like nervous about it or whatever, I mean, just because they're talking about cannabis, you know, openly on campus doesn't mean, you know, jackboots are going to come in and, you know, guard the place, you know. So you can come in and have a good time. You can do that, you know.
Yeah.
So to anyone who hasn't gone yet and is thinking for next semester, but yeah, and I wanted to say as well, since I would say I just have a few other questions left. I was wondering, for next semester, if for students. I guess I'd say, would you mind? I think you had said earlier, but just to make sure that we have it, would you mind saying for students who are considering going next semester where they will be taking place?
Yeah, so we'll be in VBRB, which is the Veterinary Biomedical Research Building. That's what VBRB is. Yes. So VBRB 305, it's right across from the stadium and the Coug statue, but it's going to be Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesday of every month. And we're supposed to have kind of a networking event, the first one, so it's very low stakes, where you can speak one-on-one with the researchers that'll be giving talks throughout the semester. And it'll be a nice kickoff to the semester. But yep, first and third Tuesday of every month. It'll be over Zoom as well, and it's from 4 to 5.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for being able to kind of give the time and the place. And I didn't actually know what the acronym stood for at first, so thanks for being able to list that as well. And I was wondering also, well, Jack, do you want to ask anything else before I go on to the next?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, well, because what I was going to say might be like kind of the last main question I was going to ask. So
Okay.
in case you have anything in mind, then you can.
Yeah, I'll come in after.
Okay. Well, I was going to say about the series or about cannabis research at WSU in general. Just I wanted to give the opportunity, you know, if anything else you'd like to mention to people listening or shout out or put out there to just give you the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think the main thing was the seminar series, as well as my class. I'm super excited. This is my brainchild I've been dreaming about for like 5 years. I wanted to start my own cannabis-related course. You know, my future, I want to go into, like I said, continuing the dream of cannabis research and education. So I'd love to, after graduating, get a job at an institution teaching biochem and hopefully start up offering more cannabis-based classes. So next semester, the biochemistry of cannabis, I'm so excited. It's a brainchild I've been working on. Like I said, it's for graduate and undergraduate students, and you know, it's the first time we're offering it. So I'm really excited to not only offer it, but teach it with Matt Peck, the advisor that'll also be co-teaching it with me. And yeah, so those are the two main things. But stay tuned. If I stay at WSU any longer, I will make up more cannabis-related fun stuff to do.
Right,
For
right.
sure.
Well, let me just say one more time then. First of all, I really appreciate you being able to come in today
Absolutely.
and do an interview and talk a little bit about. This is next semester, the Cannabis Research Seminar Series, the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And make sure, for those who are still picking their classes and getting everything in order, advanced topic in plant biochemistry, MPS 587, the biochemistry of cannabis, Tuesdays 2:55 to 3:45 p.m. And if you have any questions, make sure to email jeremy.boutin@wsu.edu. I know. I just want to make sure. I feel like when I introduced you before you had got, I was completely unsure if I said your last name right at first, and I felt like a complete chump for that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I appreciate-
People have pronounced it a million different ways. It's French. It's Bouton is how it's.
I thought it was French.
Yes, but so I've heard Boutin. I've heard a million
Boutin.
different ways. So no, you got it. It's
Wow.
I'm glad that I appreciate it. I mean, it's a better last name than Kirchert. No offense.
It's easier. Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for coming in.
I had a
Jack,
question.
did you
I had
want-
a question.
Oh yeah, you can ask.
Yes.
This is kind of a conceptual. It's not like this is the important stuff. But I just had a random question about. We were walking in here. We were talking about sommeliers. The wine tasters and
yes.
stuff. Because I'm into wine. That's my degree. Do you think eventually, with enough time, culturally, there are going to be like sommeliers for different strands of weed and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think there already are some people
Really?
that would call themselves that. I mean, you could smoke something, and if you've appreciated cannabis for a certain amount of years, you could definitely pick up on, oh, this hasn't been cured right, or oh, this is probably this type of breeder, or
Interesting.
there's certain flavor profiles you could definitely pick up on. Certain terpenes or certain strains have distinct aromas for sure. So my favorite strain is Chemdog, and
Chemdog.
it's gassy, it's citrusy, it gives a very uplifting and kind of focusing high. So
Interesting.
if I smoke that, I could definitely for sure
could
pick up
tell.
on it.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
a taste test, if you will.
That's
but
cool.
I'm definitely sure, because I know people, I don't know if it's offered yet, but I think in California, they're trying to do a lot of, I forget what they're called. My brain's fried now, but it's kind of like a cannabis lounge type setup where
Yeah.
you can enjoy cannabis and kind of like a bar type setup, type lounge. And I believe they have people that they hire as, I don't know if they're branded as cannabis sommeliers, but but yeah, definitely I could see it if
Well,
it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's
happening.
interesting because like with wine, like the difference that I think between wine and cannabis and stuff like that is just the only difference there is culture. They're both drugs, and it's mainly history, I think. And then there's way more history of alcohol and culture of alcohol. So you got these like sommeliers that are very fancy, like associated, but like. At the end of the day, alcohol and wine is still a drug, just like cannabis. So you could I think with enough time, like you could get the same sort of culture around it. That's just me.
Oh yeah, for
conceptually.
sure. I could definitely picture that.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna step out and let you guys have like an intellectual discussion of wine and cannabis because I'm not in either of them.
Well, just I could see you becoming a cannabis sommelier.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll see. Well, time will tell, Well, once again, I really appreciate you being able to make the time. Thank you again. And make sure, of course, MPS 587, Advanced Topics in Plant Biochemistry, and make sure to check out the Cannabis Research Seminar Series next semester.